My name is Dominique Mohammed. I'm 29 years old. I'm from Portland, Oregon. And this past year, I've faced and defeated one of the toughest battles that I've ever faced in my life. When I was 20 years old, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 4. I'm gonna bring on fellow cancer survivors to show you guys not only that you can beat any cancer, but that you can beat your zombie, whatever that is in life.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of BeastvsZombie. Before we get started, make sure to follow the podcast on all social media platforms. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify so you can see the full videos and you can stay up to date on new episodes coming out every other week. Today, I have Tiffany on the show. She has an amazing story overcoming breast cancer in her life. So let's get right into it. How'd you figure out that you were diagnosed with breast cancer?
Oh, well, to start, I actually felt the lump in my breast on my own when I was in the shower. So it was really incidental. I don't use like a loofah, I use like a mitt. So I had a little bit more control, ran into the little sucker, and it just didn't feel right. Um, Mind you, this was like in the middle of COVID. So I had to like wait 3 months for an appointment. Thank God, I know. Thank God it was a slow growing tumor, but it was ultimately diagnosed through biopsy, which hurt like so bad. But yes.
Yeah, biopsies are crazy. Did you have any other symptoms or that was it? You just felt something?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. And the crazy part is, I mean, I felt like the healthiest ever. Is almost, I was basically done with grad school. I graduated and everything. So I had all these like ideas of what I wanted to do with my life. And the day I found out, I went on a 7 mile hike. Again, like felt so good, felt so healthy. So I had no other indicators. Didn't feel sick, literally nothing. It was only the mass or like the tumor that I felt that indicated that something was wrong. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's crazy because right, I always hear like different sides of the stories and like for me, I had maybe a little bit of low energy, but I had a lump in my neck, like my lymph node in my neck was swollen. I went
Mm,
to a chiropractor that I was going to at the time, and I
okay.
wanted them to rub out. I thought I had a knot in my neck, and they were like, "No, you need to see a doctor." Again,
Oh my
like you
gosh.
said, I got a biopsy,
Okay.
and they like officially diagnosed me with cancer and stuff like that.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, not a lot of symptoms. Been an athlete all my life,
Mm,
always been
yes.
super active.
Right. It resonates.
Um,
Totally.
During that time, I was super active. I was playing a lot of basketball and probably
Wow.
in some of the best shape of my life. I was 19 at the time, so
Okay.
I was like a year or two out. I think I was like 2 years out of high school, and I was just going to community college at the
Oh my
time.
gosh. So young.
Yeah, it was crazy and it was like a complete shocker, but when I did go to the urgent care, he knew immediately. Like he couldn't tell me without doing the biopsy and being actually officially
Wow.
diagnosed, but he was like, he asked me if he wanted me to give him his opinion, and he told me straight up like you have cancer. And he was right. He was
Wow.
right. So
Like based
that
off
was
of the
crazy.
lump in your neck, just like feeling it or seeing it?
Yeah, I guess like
Oh,
whatever
wow.
experience he had,
Okay.
he knew right
Oh,
off the bat.
so young.
So when you found out and were diagnosed with cancer, how did you feel about that?
Oh my gosh. It was awful. So when I found out, I was actually in Colorado visiting a cousin, and so I wasn't even home and I was out of state. So I found out, and let me tell you, I got the call at like 7 p.m. on a Friday night. And I told myself, there is no doctor that's calling me at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. Immediately, my heart dropped. And like people say that feeling when your heart dropped and you feel sick. Like, no, this was like no other. I just knew. And when I finally got to talk to the person on the other phone, it wasn't even my doctor, it was like a nurse like passing the information. And let me tell you, she basically gave it to me like we were going through a drive-through. She essentially was like, "Yeah, you have breast cancer, but your doctor's not in this weekend, so you're gonna have to wait till Monday. Give us a call back on Monday." And I'm like, "What? Hold on!" Like I'm just freaking out. I was shocked, but then immediate tears, feeling sick, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna die. Like that's the immediate reaction. Like I am going to die, or I'm going to die if I don't do anything about this. But the immediate thought was, am I going to die? Yeah, it was awful, and I'm sure you
That's
resonate. Awful.
that's scary. No, it's completely scary. And especially like you said, like during COVID, like all the
Mm,
wait time, like you said, what it was like three
3
months till
months.
you could get a doctor
Exactly.
appointment. I know, yeah, like so. I dealt with cancer like for like 10 years. So I dealt with
Oh
cancer
my
like
God!
pre-COVID and then
Wow!
post-COVID because so like I
Oh
had
my
cancer.
gosh!
It took about 4 years initially to like beat it. I did like a bone marrow transplant and then for 3 years I was in remission.
Wow!
And then it came back. I had to do another bone marrow transplant. So that's what like
Mm,
prolonged it. There's like a 3 year gap in between that. Um,
wow.
but the first time was like even before COVID, it took so long to like get the results back, to schedule the
Right,
biopsies and stuff like that. So
right,
it like the initial process of like figuring it out takes a lot of time. But then, and what I've heard from other people as well is like once you do get started, it kind of all starts happening pretty quick.
fast, sure.
Um, I think,
That is awful,
man,
Tom.
that's crazy that it's very scary to get the news like that. Like
Yeah.
that's crazy. You got the news, and she was like, "Just call back next week."
Just call back. In my head, I thought, like, why did you tell me now? Like, you could have just told me Monday because I literally can't do anything about it. So I was
Yeah,
sitting with my misery for that Friday until the weekend. And then I chose not to tell my parents right away because I wanted to tell them in person. So that was like another hurdle for me. And that was awful trying to come up with how do I tell them. So sitting with that for a whole weekend, that was like its own personal hell, to be honest. And then once I got back and got to see my parents, oh, that was like just another, just trauma after trauma because I'm just having to break the news. And I also felt like I felt like I was kind of breaking their heart and ruining their life, you know? Like, oh, it's me. Like, I have cancer and I have to like ruin your life with this. And it's not that I felt like it was my fault, but it felt like, man, why did this have to happen? And why do I have to do this to you? Yeah. So it was so
I
sad.
felt just like that.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. They can't even tell you why you get cancer, which is
Totally. I'm like,
beyond.
tell me, explain it to me. And they're like, we really can't tell you. It's just like
I
luck
can't
of
tell
the
you.
draw, right? Oh, how
Yeah.
lucky are we?
And then, yeah, and then you start to feel like, well, why me? Like,
Totally.
right? Like, I see you working out all the time. Like you say, you did a
Right?
7 mile
Yes.
hike
Same with
that
you.
day. Like,
Right.
you're very like at least
Active.
active.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
so it's always like to me was like extreme surprise. Um, and relating to you, tell like going like I went through the whole process of finding out with my parents and I know it was definitely hard for them.
Yeah.
I could never imagine being a parent and my kid
Ah,
has
right.
cancer
Right.
and being like super concerned because like you said like people die when they get cancer. Like that's a thing.
Right.
And so I know it was definitely hard for them and you know one thing I did to try and help them but then help anybody that cared and supported me through this was always try to like say extremely positive kind of
Right.
I always say lead by example with my attitude so that they had confidence that like I was okay. I mean because
Wow.
they weren't feeling what we were feeling, you know what
Totally.
I'm saying,
Absolutely.
like and we're I was very strong at the time. I was very healthy outside of I had cancer.
Yes. Yeah.
I think. that weekend when I was diagnosed, I went snowboarding. I went snowboarding that weekend with my family because it
Wow.
was it was over the holidays. It was like Christmas,
Okay. Wow.
and like for a couple years we would go out to a cabin and go up to Mount Bachelor in Oregon, and we
Okay.
would snowboard actually on Christmas Day. It was really fun,
Amazing.
but yeah. So I tried to lead by example. I thought that definitely helped them, because they were definitely more scared than I was,
Right.
um,
Right.
like dealing with this. So okay. On that note, how did people that cared about you? How did they respond? How did they feel? Your parents? How did they react about you having cancer?
Yeah. So, um, my parents, my mom is a faith-based woman, so she, thankfully, I didn't have to necessarily like quote unquote worry about her in a sense because she really like gave it to God and like I'm a faith-based person too. So that was like it felt like that was the only thing I could actually lean on because everything just felt like it was crumbling and I just had to have faith that this was going to work out in my favor and that all was going to be well. So my mom, she was just in prayer about it and just had like communities of different churches praying for me. And that was so incredibly helpful and I think really vital to my sanity and to my recovery. My dad, he's in the medical field, so he was devastated beyond measure because I mean, he knows the science. I have some family members, actually my grandma that passed away from cancer. So for him, his like immediate probably thoughts, which he didn't tell me, but in my head I'm thinking maybe he thought like, oh my goodness, like I can't lose my daughter. So he was very instrumental in helping me navigate the medical stuff and like decision making as far as like what treatments to go towards and such. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But my dad was very supportive. I mean, he like threw every like resource and like even material items I need. Like he really helped me with all of the like even cold capping. It's we could talk about that too. It's so expensive. He helped me with that. Um, and yeah, so like I had different types of support through my parents, and then my friends in general. I have like a solid group of friends that really just showered me with love, and it was during COVID, so they were super committed to keeping me healthy and safe, and like wanted me to hang out. They wanted to hang out with me and like keep me just like busy. So we kind of like created our own little like safe group just to hang out and feel like I wasn't even dealing with cancer. But then I'm sure, as you know, like there were some friends and some people that like kind of disappointed me, I would say, that like just didn't show up the way that I had hoped for. And I think that was something I had to grieve and like I think forever changed friendships. Definitely. And since then, some friendships have like improved and like I've forgiven and it's okay. But it really does show you who is there for you and like who's down to like really stick by your side through like the worst moment of your the worst season of your life. So I'm grateful, super grateful for that. But yeah, it just felt like I was disappointing everybody, that's for sure. But also, I don't know. I know some people relate to this, but I didn't tell people for a very long time. And I think that because it was COVID, I got away with it for such a long time. And even with my job, I was working at an inpatient facility and COVID was happening. So I was basically like, oh, I'm like worried of COVID. So I have to basically go. And they're like, okay, like come back hopefully when this gets better. But in my head, I'm like, well, see you for a long time because I have cancer, in my head. Um, I didn't even end up going back and did something better after that, anyways. But when it came to like my job at the salon, because I'm a therapist and a hairstylist, but as a hairstylist, I did not tell my clients at all. I just said I'm dealing with a health issue, and I'll let you know when I'm back. So I didn't even tell them. I think a part of me didn't want others to have to grieve or be worried about me or be sad. I don't know if you relate to that. It seems like you do because you're, nodding. But yeah, I just felt like a burden at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really cool that your friend group that was with you was
Yeah,
able to give you like a space and like a sense of normalcy. Because that's what I always say it is like
Yes.
like you said, I don't want to feel like a burden. I don't want to feel handicapped to all these people because I'm
Exactly.
not.
Right.
Like I'm still a normal person, right?
Mhm.
And I did a bunch of things. Like I continue to stay active. I was able to like stay playing basketball as much as I could,
Amazing. Wow.
um, and kind of like hang out with friends and family that were still there to support me. And that sense of normalcy was extremely helpful because that's all I needed. Because, right, like I
Exactly.
have cancer, I
Right.
am going through something that is like completely changed my life, and I just want to feel normal. And like, I don't want you guys to look at me in any different light. Like, I'm okay, like everything is all good.
Right.
And, I always say, like I always say cancer is one of the best things that happened to me.
Mm,
Well, and I can say that because I beat it, right?
exactly.
But
Right.
similar to what you were saying, like, and I always look at cancer as like, I mean, I look at life honestly as like war, right? Like you're going through
Mm,
stuff, like you got to like take stuff seriously, but like cancer was a battle, right?
right.
And you really understood who was there for you and who was not,
Yes.
right?
Oh, gosh.
And
Yeah.
on the flip side, I've also heard this perspective too. Is like it can be hard to approach somebody with cancer and
Yeah.
talk to them.
Oh, right.
Like
Totally.
just like you're scared and you're going through something, they're feeling some type of way too, as
Yeah.
your friend or somebody that definitely cares about you. Like
Totally.
it's kind of like it's kind of scary for them to honestly bring it up. But like, what do you do? What do you do, or what do you say to somebody that has cancer? Like, oh,
Right.
I'm sorry you have cancer. It's gonna be okay. Like everybody
Yeah.
says
You're
that,
like, yeah.
right? Like so you know, um, it's tough, but those people that did show up for you
Right.
battled that, overcame that, and were there
Mhm.
for you, and
Absolutely.
I can always applaud that and
Yes.
really appreciate
Oh
that.
my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
because like you're nothing like the support, your family, your friends, the people you care for. I mean, that's why you do everything in life. You know,
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
growing up, like and to this day, like I want to make my parents proud. You know what I'm
Definitely.
saying? I want to
Right.
do stuff so
Right.
that they're proud that their child is out there like thriving and living a great life. That's what I
Absolutely.
can do to make them feel good. And the people that care about me the most and really care about me, that's what they're going to want to see from me,
Yeah.
is that
Right.
I'm doing good. And so yeah, everything you do, you go out, you slave away for money, you stay in shape, right? And if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't, feed into everybody else the
Absolutely.
way you
Right.
want to,
Definitely.
because those is your people,
Yeah.
and that, that's what I do it all for. So
Aw,
that's
same.
cool.
Relate. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's go into your treatment a little bit. I want to talk
Ooh,
about the ice
yeah.
capping.
Oh
The ice
yeah.
capping. I had another lady, Miss Charlene. She was telling me about her ice capping. I didn't do any type of ice capping. Actually, like on through most of my treatments, like my chemo treatments,
Yeah.
like after like months, my hair got thin.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I only really actually lost my hair like I had two bone marrow transplants. So
Wow.
each bone marrow transplant you do like very extreme high dose of chemo because the goal is to like kill every cell in your body
Everything.
basically
Right.
so
Right.
that they can't detect any cells in your body. So those were the times when I did lose my hair.
Okay.
We both grew our hair back, which
Yes, we
is
did. Look at that. I know I'm looking at yours. I'm like, you got those braids. Oh yeah.
we got we got it going on. Yeah, so go into your ice capping treatment and then
Oh
we can go from there.
yeah. Okay. So first and foremost, I'm so grateful for the like mechanism that somebody made to save hair. The thing with the I like that you say ice capping because they call it like cold capping, but I
Okay.
would rather say ice capping. I'm sure people
Mhm.
say it in different ways, but I'm like it's not cold because it's freezing. I mean, it's below, it's like negative 20, 30 degrees, whatever. It's frozen. So, yeah, it's like an ice cap. And so I'm grateful that I had it. Unfortunately, here in America, it's a service that you have to pay out of pocket, and it's very expensive. So that's probably one of the most unfortunate things I feel like about cancer is like these things that make us feel like are us. Like I feel normal is our hair, and losing it is so tough. So I wish it wasn't so expensive, and I hope that it changes in the future. Um, so basically, with cold capping, no one told me about it besides like one friend who had gone through breast cancer treatment, was actually one of my hair clients. So she said, hey, there's this thing called cold capping, ice capping, and you could possibly save your hair. So basically, saving your hair and the amount of hair you save is really dependent on the chemo that you get. So I have seen women who have kept about like 90% of their hair like at their like best rate. But if you're on a higher, more strong dose of chemo, you're at risk of losing like basically all of it and saving some of it. But what I understood was, like for me, for example, because I was on a strong and heavy dose of breast cancer meds. Well, I guess they could use it for different cancers, but it's called the Red Devil. I don't know if you're familiar with the Red Devil.
I've had that
You've
point
had
mentioned.
it. Ah, yeah. Awful. Awful, awful. So
Mhm.
on the Red Devil, I basically lost like I would say like 80%. No, like maybe even a little more of my hair. And it's crazy because I think I pulled it off by because of COVID and being a hairstylist, like covering my hair and extensions. Um, People don't really see that from me. And actually, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud to like anybody. Is like I literally lost that much hair. And with cold capping, though, I was able to save like the 20%. And then when I switched my meds, like man, like 3 months later, and I was on a different type of med, my hair started to grow back while I was cold capping. So again, so grateful for it. But it is, I tell people all the time, if it's important to you to do, I would say go for it. It is a very challenging and uncomfortable experience because you're basically getting frostbite on your head and like your ears. And it's hard to take a nap and to sleep because you have to switch the cap every 15 minutes so that it stays at a specific temperature. So it's a very uncomfortable, tedious process, but for me, at least in my eyes, it was worth it. However, I do know some people who say that their lived experience is that it wasn't worth it and they decided to stop completely because it can be that grueling. Um, so I'm grateful for it, but it was really hard. It was really hard to do.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, that sounds like
It was
intense on top
very
of what
intense.
you're already going through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. It's interesting. It's always interesting to hear. I hear a lot of people, a lot of like cancer patients that I talk to, like we've had specifically that medication, the Red Devil, and
Yes.
your urine is red or orange
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yes.
Um,
It's awful.
and it's just interesting because we have different cancers, but
Right.
some of the treatment is still the
Exactly.
same.
Yeah, and I find that so interesting. But like you said, it's like meant to just kill every cell. And so that means you feel absolutely awful. And it was
Yeah, it's
definitely
tough.
a treacherous one. Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of explain what was your treatment plan as far as from your doctors and kind of what did that look like to get you to where you're at now?
Yeah, good question. A lot of people do tend to ask me that, especially those who are entering their cancer journey. So for me, because I was diagnosed, I was at 30 years old, relatively young still for, I mean, they say it's still young for cancer, but in a sense, there is so many young adult cancer that I'm like, I don't think it's rare anymore, unfortunately. Hence why we need more research and funding. But yeah, so when I was diagnosed, my dad, who's in the medical field, he basically came with me. And his friends basically told him, friends in the medical field said, throw the kitchen sink at her. She is young, give her the most aggressive form of chemo, but she needs to do everything: chemo, surgery, radiation. To me, I was obviously mortified that that had to be my journey because as I was doing research on my own, I heard some people just get surgery or do surgery and radiation. So in my head, I'm like, I don't want to do chemo. That was then. I am now so grateful that I did and did every, imaginable option, at least for my case. So when I finally saw my oncologist, he agreed and said, "You are young. We need to give you the most aggressive form of treatment." And on top of that, I had a rare type of breast cancer, of course, with my luck. So it was a cancer that only accounts for about 2 to 4% of breast cancers. So it is not heavily studied. Just because a lot of people in the world, they don't really get diagnosed with that, so how can they really study that, you know, thoroughly? But basically, the breast cancer that I had, it typically affects women in their 60s and 70s. So I'm over here mind blown. I'm like, I just turned 30. How is this possible? The I guess you could say good thing about having that type is that that tumor is a slow growing tumor. So the other thing on top of that is they didn't know what type of chemo to give me. In some cases, they said, like, will chemo even help you? So they just resorted to, since we don't know exactly what to do, we're going to give you everything. So I ended up getting ACT chemo. So it was adriamycin, cytoxan, which is the red devil, and then Taxol. But then I had some adverse effects. So adverse effects like I was starting to like it was starting to feel like I was getting some mouth sores. It wasn't even to a point where it developed, thankfully, but I had some like pain in my mouth, which that is a side effect. My skin started to rash. It even like looked bruised and really red in certain areas. My fingernails turned black like immediately, actually, too, by the way. I don't know. Did yours turn black? Did your
I
nails?
did my fingernails. Like, I
Oh,
remember they were like basically dead. And I remember
yes.
watching them grow out and grow back, like
Yeah.
afterwards,
Oh my gosh,
like, so I
yes.
could see, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, that was crazy.
It was
That was,
crazy. It was, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and then, the hair and then your nails. So it's like, oh man, it's like more obvious that I am looking like a cancer patient, which was totally awful. But with Taxol, the adverse effects were starting to affect my nerves as well. So, because of that, my oncologist wanted to switch me to another med, and it seemed to get better a little bit, but I struggled with a little bit of neuropathy. I don't know if did you struggle with some neuropathy? Yeah,
I sure did. It wasn't like extremely bad,
me too.
but my fingertips and my toes were
Okay.
always basically like tingling.
Tingling. Yeah.
Um,
It was so odd.
it, or going numb, whatever.
Numb.
It was
Yes.
like it was weird.
It
Yeah,
was weird.
it was definitely a side effect that I had. I didn't have like the most side effects in the world, but
Okay.
that was one of them.
Oh,
Yeah, it
okay.
was weird.
Yes. And that one scared me. I think what happened was my oncologist wanted to switch because I started getting a shooting pain in my leg all the way to my foot. So, as you know, I guess it's really just affecting our nerves. And I'm like, I don't want to lose any of that function. So, switching the meds was definitely vital. And I'm glad that I did. But I had a lot of, I would say, adverse effects towards the end. And then on Taxotere, I ended up losing my lashes and my eyebrows, which was interesting because I lost it in the weight towards the end, like maybe 2 weeks before I finished treatment. So I'm like, really? I wish I
Oh,
could have kept those.
yeah.
So that was upsetting. But yes, chemo for me was wild. I did not like it. I had a port in my chest. Did you have a port in your chest? Okay.
Had a port.
Oh yeah.
It was like right here. You probably can't see the scar, but. Yeah, this is the
Like
scar
a
right here.
little bit. I have mine too. Wait, actually, I put like
Yeah.
a tape over it, but
Okay,
like,
cool.
yeah. So as you can see, just yeah, I'm
Hmm.
like kind of reminded of it every day. I don't, but it's starting to go down. But then, yeah, I had to do a lumpectomy, so that was another um, scary thing, but I was grateful that I just had to get a localized surgery. I give it to the women who have gotten, mastectomies. People don't know it's like a complete amputation where they take out your nerves, your fat. I mean, I I can go on about that. It just is so awful that you're getting rid of a big part of you. So I truly give it to the women that have to get the mastectomies. In my case, I was able to do a lumpectomy, which I was really grateful for. And I did get a second opinion from a doctor who let me know, like, this is probably going to be your best option. So I went for that. And then I did 21 rounds of radiation, and that was a whole other thing. But that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But I thought I would be like a Marvel character after that with all the radiation, like something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, um, yeah, it is crazy, and it's interesting. Um, like as far as side effects that I had through my treatment, like definitely the worst side effects I had were when I was doing like the bone marrow transplants.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
imagine.
and it was crazy dealing with, I mean, like over a span, it was really like 6 years. Like it took like 10 years, but it was really like 6 years of treatments and stuff. And like sometimes going through
Wow.
chemo. I actually live in Las Vegas and I'm from Portland, Oregon. And
Oh,
so
okay.
again, I was 19 at the time, so I was under
Yeah.
26. So I still had all my coverage
Oh, right.
was in Oregon. Um, Also, like, I don't like getting a lot of health related, especially serious things done here in Vegas. It's just like
Oh.
bad quality. Like it's not like,
Oh.
for example, like doing my bone marrow transplant, I actually they don't have the capability to do a bone marrow transplant in Nevada.
Oh, I
It
didn't know
wasn't even
that.
an option. I would
Mm.
have had to go to Utah or like I went home where my family is.
Okay.
Um, so stuff like that, but at one point I was doing chemo every other week. So and I was going to school. The reason why I was going back and forth was because I got to a point where I had done so much treatment and I still felt like good enough. And I was at 2 years in my college degree and I wanted to
Wow.
go back and finish. That was kind of like my business. And so I was like, well, I'm good enough. Like I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go to school. I'll fly back and forth every 2 weeks or whatever I
Wow.
have
Oh,
to
goodness.
do. And thank God, like I was able to do that. You know, thank God I have the support and the resources to be able
Yeah,
to kind of like
absolutely.
make that happen.
Right.
Um, but I remember, as far as side effects goes, being in the hospital, I had some crazy stuff going on. Like at one point, my hands were kind of like on fire, like
Oh,
literally. And it was so hot. I would be putting ice packs on my hands and feet, and eventually all the skin on my hands and feet like peeled off.
oh my goodness.
And
Okay.
similar to like the nails being affected, some of my toenails actually came off. Like
Mm,
they died and like popped off. Like they
wow.
didn't just like get discolored. So those were some intense things. And I had never done radiation. I had done radiation like extremely low dose. So
Okay.
like similar to you were saying, it wasn't as bad. But then my second transplant, I did full body, like I assume pretty high dose of chemo, and it was actually really bad. Um, and
Wow.
like you were saying, you thought you would be like a Marvel
I
character.
know.
I have my dad's cells. I live with my dad's cells currently now.
Okay.
So that's like pretty cool. And the 3 years before I did my second transplant, it wasn't an option. Like my dad is what they call like a half match. And so
Oh.
my mom is Korean and my dad is African American. He's like a black guy. And so
Oh,
I didn't have like a full match, right? Like they put your blood into like this database to try and find full match.
got it.
And I
Okay.
didn't have that, right? So
Wow.
initially I collected my own cells. I did
Okay.
I
Fascinating.
didn't have cancer in my actual like bones in my T cells. So I
Okay.
was able to qualify to take those cells, collect those, and give those back to me. And
Wow.
actually, that first transplant didn't even work.
Oh,
It didn't even. I went through all of that. It didn't even work. I I still had that small piece of cancer in my chest at the time,
mm,
and I ended up doing this was another like technological advancement. I ended up doing like an immune therapy where
okay, I've
it
heard of that.
wasn't like so it wasn't breaking it wasn't like traditional chemo treatments like breaking down all my cells and just like killing everything. It helped my immune system basically target whatever was going on, and it worked. It got me
Mm,
into remission, and
wow.
it
Wow.
got me into remission twice because in order to
Amazing.
do initially to do a transplant, you have to be in remission first
Oh, okay.
in or to be able to be considered for them to like give you the thumbs up. Now we can do the
Do it
bone marrow
again.
transplant.
Got
So
it. Wow.
so thank
Wow.
God for technology.
No kidding.
Even
Yeah.
in that little short span, you know, it really helped me, and it was, yeah, it was crazy.
What a
So,
journey. Yeah.
so how did you feel about like your doctors? Like, did you trust them? Did you
Yeah.
feel good about where you're going? You said you got a second opinion at one point.
I did.
How was that process, and what did that feel like for you?
Yes. So, because I was diagnosed with a rare form of breast cancer, there was a lot of like question marks regarding what do we do? What do we do with her? And felt a little discouraging and really scary because I just wanted this to be gone and I didn't want to deal with cancer ever again. So, with that being said, I thought to myself it would probably be best if I get a second opinion. And no one really tells you to do that, I would say. I think that like reading books maybe is what encouraged me to get a second opinion. So, what I did was when I was assigned to my cancer center, so at the time it was called Compassionate Cancer Center. I think they changed their name more recently, but there's a place locally here in Orange County called Breast Link, and they focus primarily, well, on breast cancers only. And so I decided I'm going to go there and get a second opinion. And I got paired up with a really cool doctor. Um, he is relatively young, and you could tell that like the knowledge is just so fresh. Not that it isn't for other doctors, but it was my experience with that particular doctor. And yeah, so he was the one that said, reviewing um, your file, I am led to believe that you could just do a lumpectomy. He was the breast surgeon, so he basically told me, like, this is what you probably could do. Where other people were saying, like, basically saying, chop your boobs off, just chop them off because you don't know if it'll ever come back. And that sounded so scary to me that I lived in fear and thought that was my only option. But with doing more research, talking to other doctors, I found out that a lumpectomy paired with radiation is statistically similar to a mastectomy. So, going to a doctor who was knowledgeable was helpful, and he did have another doctor shadowing him, and that doctor did her due diligence and basically gave me sentiments of like, this is what I know about your type of breast cancer. And that alone was so validating. It also felt I felt like I was seen and heard by her. So I had a really good experience. Overall, my doctors were great. However, I will say, like, dealing with insurance because I'm young, they're like, you don't have cancer. Everything took forever. Um, Getting tests and scans, like, those were okay, that's for sure. But in the moments, like, you feel so vulnerable. I almost wish I had somebody with me, or I wish that the providers or the people that were helping me with tests and scans were able to just kind of like give me that warmth and that support. I think that there was more of like a, oh my gosh, like I don't know how to deal with her because she has cancer. Like I feel bad for her kind of approach. Um, but overall, my doctors were great, with the exception of my first doctor who didn't tell me I had cancer. I think she was also like kind of, yeah, who made the nurse that was there tell me instead. I have no relationship with this person. So I would say that was like the worst, one of the worst experiences was dealing with the nurse who had no empathy and was basically going through a drive-through. And then it was basically my primary care physician. I'm like, why couldn't you just face me and tell me, or like wait to tell me? So that is something I think I still feel sad about. But overall, my doctors were great, and I'm still grateful that I get to be connected to Compassionate Cancer Center, because I feel comfortable there, and I still get, aftercare at that same place. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Man, yeah, I like what you brought up about getting second opinions, and I don't think it's just for cancer either. Like
Right.
I always, when I ever have anything serious going on,
Yeah,
I always get
totally. You're right.
at least a
Yeah.
second opinion.
Yeah.
Like for example, like I had torn my Achilles maybe
Ooh,
like 5 years ago,
okay.
and and the first doctor he was like, "Well, your Achilles is partially torn. I'm gonna put you in a boot. It'll heal itself." And I was like,
Wow.
okay, this seems kind of weird. I've always heard people get surgery, but you're the doctor, so
Right.
you know what you're talking about, right? So I put myself in a boot. I'm walking around for a couple weeks again, waiting to get
Oh
to
my
another
God.
appointment with another doctor. And I see this other doctor, and he's like, "You need surgery.
Oh
Like,
my
don't you
goodness.
want to get back to doing to the level you were at?" I was like, "Yes, 100%. Like, I want to get back." He was like, "You need surgery. Like, we should do this." And he showed
Oh,
me my the way my Achilles was healing, and he's like, "Look, it's so weak. You need surgery, and this is what we do." And I was a little, I'm not the type of person to get super nervous about surgery. Like that doesn't really like freak me out, but it was a big decision and I wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. And so I ended up getting surgery because I
yeah,
wanted to get
right.
back to where I was, and it
Absolutely.
worked. It like, and they know what they're doing as far as like Achilles tears and stuff like that. So yeah, I always believe in getting second opinions because
Agreed.
you know, even even more recently, I got a second opinion with a different situation with my hip, and
Okay.
they told me the same thing. The first doctor delivered it a little bit different way, and like you, similar to what you said, was a little bit less like empathetic or compassionate or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
feeling for me, and I just honestly didn't really trust him. Um, and well, okay, he kind of said the same thing,
Okay.
except he was pushing me to do a surgery immediately. And I was like, I don't know,
Hmm.
because basically, a side effect of everything that I've gone through, I have what's called necrosis in my hip right now. And
Oh
so what that
man.
is like I don't have any oxygen. The blood isn't flowing right to my hip, so it's
Got
starting
it.
to break down, and
Got it.
eventually it's supposed to collapse. And so
Oh.
he was like, again, I was in Las Vegas seeing a doctor,
Oh.
and he was trying to get me to do surgery. He was like, "We can do it right now. You should do it right now." And it honestly just felt kind of pushy. And I'm actually still very active right now. Like I work out four to
Amazing.
five almost every day. Like
Nice.
I walk a couple miles every day. I walk my dog. I don't do any like impact cardio, but I do like a lot of spin bike because of
Nice.
my hip
Okay.
situation.
Yeah.
It's snowboard season. I've still been able to snowboard a
Good for
lot. I'm not
you.
like
Love that.
throwing like backflips and jumping off of everything, but
Yeah.
like I can get out there and just like cruise around and navigate. It's like one of my
Nice.
favorite things to
Love
do.
it.
So like I was extremely worried about that. And I'm still lifting extreme like heavier than
Nice.
ever on my
Me too.
legs.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good
So
for you.
that's good. Good
Yeah.
job. I love that. And so that's why I felt like no way I need surgery right now.
Yeah.
And so then I went back to Oregon to my doctors in Oregon. I got a second opinion, And she told me, well, you're super active, you're doing all this stuff. You should wait to get surgery until
Mm.
it's like uncomfortable to do normal things. Um, because it's pretty invasive, but also a hip replacement is what I would have to get.
Oh, I
It
see.
wears out. It wears out.
Oh, I
And
didn't know
so
that.
like
Mhm.
I'm only 30 years old right now.
Okay,
In another 20 years, right, my hip could wear out and I have to get another one. Opposed to if I wait 20 years
right.
doing the things I'm doing, and I get hip replacement then I could, it could be a better situation because who knows what a second hip replacement would look like. I don't know. I did, but that seemed like the smartest thing to me. And so again, I was happy I got a second opinion,
Oh, good for
just like
you.
you
That
said.
is, yeah, that seemed really critical. Definitely, that second opinion.
Cool. So, to wrap things up,
Yeah.
last question I have. I
Yes.
know, like I said, we could talk about
I
cancer
know.
forever.
Seriously.
Um, but what would you tell somebody? What advice would you give somebody that's maybe going through maybe not going through a health situation. Maybe they have problems with their finances. Maybe they're having relationship challenges. Maybe they're having problems at work. What would you tell somebody going through any challenge, big or small, to help them overcome and kind of like show up for themselves and beat what they got going on?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question and something it's something I've reflected on, I feel like, the last handful of years, especially after cancer and being cancer free. I would say that any adversity that you face, if you face it head on and you move with intention, you can essentially change the trajectory of your life. So it could either be really depressing and really awful. And I don't say to completely dismiss like the really awful feelings. Definitely like sit in them. But I tell people all the time, don't set camp there. Don't pitch a tent and sit in your depression or your anxiety or your fear. I always say to pick back up and carry on, move forward, and live your life intentionally, and whatever that means to you. And for me, I feel like I don't take life for granted anymore. And it sounds so cliche, but it is so true. We faced the fact that we really only get one life, and every day past is another day gone. So I try to live each day intentionally. I try to, even when things are tough, like I try to shift my perspective and have joy even in the pain. And I feel like that's changed basically my overall like day to day quality of life. And so going through cancer is awful, going through trauma and, difficulties in our life, like it's going to happen whether we like it or not because we live in a world where this all of this exists. So it's really up to us to decide what we want to do with that. And I hope that everyone can face the pain and the hurt and the discomfort with joy, because on the other side of the pain is a life that is so fulfilling and could be so exciting and so worthwhile. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that
Yeah.
100%. We all get these emotions,
Yes.
right? We're human beings, right? We all feel sadness, anger, fear,
Right.
anxiety, stuff like that. And and it's not wrong to feel like that for in a lot of situations. Um, but right, we also have the ability to choose how we perceive that and
Absolutely.
choose how we respond to that
Right.
and how we want to move forward with that.
Absolutely.
So I love that you shared that. I really
Thank
appreciate that.
you.
Um, so that's all we have
Okay.
today on this
Good.
episode of
Aw.
Beast vs. Zombie. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for coming and sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having
Um,
me.
of course, of course. Make sure you guys go out and follow the podcast on all social media platforms. Subscribe on YouTube and Spotify so that you can see our full videos and you can stay up to date on new episodes every other week. And make sure that you're sharing this with friends and family.
Yeah.
And these things, everybody's going through something. Everybody's going through challenges.
Right.
Everybody has something they got going on in their life, big and small, whether they disclose it or not. And they can find motivation and inspiration from these stories that we're sharing here today. So thank you for tuning in. Be a beast.
Yeah.